spent them without any approval. Frankly, as far as I'm concerned, it's been an embarrassment to me, and I think to some people I know, embarrassment to the town.
Could I ask a question? All the comments that Vice Mayor made about losing certain funds and having to repay certain funds and so forth. Do you have any comment on that, City Manager? That's not covered in the staff report here, but I certainly would be interested in any monetary or fiscal impact that any actions we might take might have.
Yeah, we're taking a look at that now and kind of auditing past expenditures and monies taken in, so I don't have a clear answer for that. I don't know, do we know how the private funds are being held that we're?
I don't, no.
So
I do.
we're just taking a.
I do,
Okay.
because Louise put it in the account and earmarked it, yeah. And let me just say that the budget that was approved, that was given, that was a budget, and every year we give the accounting to Louise, and it would all be tallied up, and it'd be part of the, budget. So, I mean, it's not like if anything was hidden from anybody.
There's a difference in the budget, and we've done this before.
Yeah.
The difference in the budget and the ability to spend money.
Yeah.
Council approves contracts and budgets. They're separate. And right now, staff is looking into, and we have an interim finance director who has done a good bit of work in this. In fact, today gave me a bunch of information to look at. We're trying to be able to answer council questions.
Sure.
We're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
I've scheduled meetings. I scheduled a meeting with Councilmember Lewis that we had to break up.
Yeah.
But one of the questions that need to be answered is basically, how has the committee been run?
Sure.
Because we need to have a better handle on who is approving expenditures. Because there's only two people that can sign off on expenditures, and that's the city manager and the mayor.
Sure.
And so we're looking into that right now.
So it seems.
It's really more in terms of right now, we have more questions than we have answers.
So it seems to me that those questions should be answered before taking action on this. Because taking an action like this before those questions are answered could result in some unintended consequences. And it could be that there's no smoking guns. It could be that there's nothing irregular. And so it's like you're calling somebody guilty without first giving them the chance of due process. It doesn't, I mean, it seems, because you can't answer all these questions, and so there's this, that's one of the things that I object to. I mean, all of a sudden it's up here on the agenda as if it were,
I can assure you, the staff is not making accusations. The staff has not taken positions. The staff is trying to conduct an investigation, and because of somebody's absence, it has made it much more difficult. And we are still working through that process, which doesn't change. Oh my God, my thing fell
Yeah,
off.
these things, I don't think
It
these things
doesn't.
are working.
It doesn't change the questions that have been raised by council members. And by the way, everybody's pointing at Council Member McKeithen. She has not discussed this with me once since the last meeting.
Right.
And the point being that staff has looked at this, and we have concerns about the website. But we're trying to work through and find the answers to those questions, and we just need time to do that. And it's up to the council as to whether or not you want to take any action while we're doing that. That's why this is here.
Right, and if I could follow up on that, I have no knowledge, I have nothing to do, I'm not accusing anybody of any wrongdoing, any money whatsoever. My concern was, I couldn't trace back where on the website the opinion pieces came from. I could never find a vote, I couldn't find where they were properly Brown Act listed, and I thought it was incumbent on me, no one put any pressure on me to do this, and I left. Is saying, I think council needs to look at this and make a decision, including no decision. But I think it needed to be in front of you, and I hope you don't shoot either messenger, is that it's a policy decision, and that's all I'm saying.
Can I bring up, one other item that's been brought up to me, I don't know if it's true or not, is that one of the members of the Environmental Programs Committee was actually paid by money from environmental programs. Well, that's totally inappropriate, may even be illegal. Now, I don't know if it's true or not, but these are the things that people are telling me. And if it's true, then I think it's absolutely terrible.
John, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, just want to ask one clarifying question here. John, do you know for sure that if we did take action disbanding the committee, that we would lose government funds or some of the funds that would?
I couldn't tell you that. I really couldn't tell you that. I'm sort of taking a heaping pile of a problem, dumping on you. It doesn't have all the disclosures and all the ramifications. I just heard today about the addition, there might be significant private donations that have come in there that I didn't know about, nor did Louise share that with me.
Nor did the city attorney, and quite frankly, it's important that we know about these things because it could have Proposition 26 impacts.
We accepted those at the council meeting a couple of months ago.
EPC?
Yeah.
Yes,
No, the
yes,
council.
$9,600. It was brought to a council
I
meeting. I
heard
think it was
much larger numbers than that.
it was $96 or $9,400.
Yeah, that's
Well,
about higher.
I'm not even going to the money side of it. And one of your options tonight is to do nothing and ask for future, get a report back immediately. However, you meet once a month. And my concern is that if I get calls, people asking me, are the items listed on the beautiful website of the EPC? I see that there's the logo up there. I'm assuming that's council policy. To which I respond, no, it's not, because council has not acted on either of these projects or water quality or these other things. And I'm not denigrating the work that they've done. I'm just saying, you haven't approved any of that stuff.
So I think the website is down.
Correct.
I don't even know that, is it?
Oh, yeah, it's been down.
It's been
since-
taken down.
Since.
The entire website?
The entire
It was up for
website.
a long
Okay.
time.
No, but it's been down since November 17th.
And my feeling
That's
is,
supposed to mean, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
If
You've
we
been
just-
out of
Before
touch.
you left, right before you left.
Was it? Okay.
if we disband it and reform it at a future date with clear rules, I don't see why that would in any way change any of the funds that have been given. That would,
That's a policy decision, I understand.
that's fine.
I think that would be a little risky. because
Well,
then-
I think it's high time we did something. with
We
this.
don't know for sure, Jim, whether that, you can't answer the question. We don't know that for sure. That'd be a risk we're taking.
This is the only committee that I can ever remember where we've had one problem after the other. Is that what I mean?
I'm not saying that there shouldn't be some changes made, but I'm saying that to disband the committee will not jeopardize the loss of certain funds the town now has. And the city manager can't answer that question right now, and so I'm concerned about that. That's all I'm saying.
So if I could, this, I can't get the word in. So my understanding, and people can correct me, but when we have a council member assigned and is the chairman, or any council members, they're on there, they're kind of the council's representative on that, so they really need to take responsibility for that activity and report or identify things aren't going right. I'm not pointing a finger at anybody or anything, but I'm just saying I think the council members need to take some accountability here. I also believe that anything is on a website that is a town's website or is representing it as a town, it needs to actually support the position of the town. And that's more or less what, the committees, the resolution 10.13 kind of implies that, the charter of this group is to be advising, to get things approved by the council, but not to make decisions. And so it shouldn't be making its own positions. Also, if it's spending any of the town's money, spending of the town's money needs to go through, as our city attorney has stated. It's got to go through our procurement policy and be where the town is accountable for spending that money. Especially in previous years when there's been 20-some-odd thousand dollars or whatever the number was, that's taxpayer dollars, so the town is accountable for that. And I understood from talking to Louise that perhaps all the processes and procedures weren't necessarily adhered to. And so I think not just for this discussion here, but for any council, any committee meeting that's had spending any money, it needs to follow the town rules and the council members that are on there. It's not just a position or, you know, something to go to on a quarterly basis, but they have an obligation to support the town and make sure that the rules are enforced in accordance with the town policy. So I do think that you know, there's lots of issues going on. I think one of the other things we need to keep track of here on this is that I believe it's just Valerie and Frank that are on this committee. Valerie, is that correct, or?
I don't know.
Can somebody, it's just two people, it's just Frank Merrill and Valerie that are on there, and then two council members. So even though there is, it's supposed to have 12 members plus two council members, oh, including two council members, it's an under-subsidized, or utilized organization. So I guess those are kind of my chance for commenting, except for I didn't see where in any of these things of how the chicken ordinance fit into that. Of course, that's been a favorite of mine. I don't see where the chicken ordinance fell into any of these requirements that are listed in this ordinance. So
I couldn't understand why it was brought up.
So anyway, so that's my comment. I guess we'll take public comments at this time. Charles.
This is probably, this was the driving force that brought me here. I'm actually appalled to see this on the agenda. And perhaps this was your doing, but I think it's a big mistake. It should have been resolved at the committee level. The site is down. It could have been that easy to handle. And to bring it to the council, for the press, for the public, to seemingly admonish somebody who's done tremendous amounts of work for the town, I think that's a mistake. And to put recommendations to disband this committee, I'm not sure where all those ideas came from, but I don't get that. The EPC was actually started, and a lot of this is wrong, which is in here. It wasn't started 5 years ago. It was started about 13 years ago as the Waste Reduction Committee was renamed. And Bill, I think you should reread some of the minutes because unfortunately Jim left. But most of what Jim said was wrong and some of the stuff you're saying is wrong. EPC has addressed waste reduction, clean air, the mayor's climate protection agreement, which the council voted and charged the EPC to get done. So it does have a clear mission. When I see that it doesn't, I don't get that. Water reduction.
I didn't say that it didn't. I said it.
Well,
And actually, waste reduction is in here. But you can have an extra minute because I took up so much of the time.
I appreciate
But
that.
I didn't make an
No, I
accusation.
didn't mean-
I said the chicken ordinance was
No, I know
there.
you said that. I
Okay.
guess I read though in here.
I didn't write that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I
Okay.
guess part of this,
All right, well, you directed it at me.
oh, I'm sorry, no, I'm talking
Okay,
to,
sorry.
no problem.
Don't want to be defensive.
And so when I read that in here, that's part of it, but I look at things, green building standards that the state mandated, water reduction that the state mandated, it's motivated schools, it's put on the Earth Week activities. When I hear that it's been all this bad press and an embarrassment to the town, actually, somebody told me one year it was the only thing good that was being written about the town. We made front page in the paper when we had climate action protection nights that were sponsored by Yale University for nationwide, for all cities that participated with the Sierra Club in signing the mayor's climate protection agreement. We had, and that was catered. So yes, we spent $500 on food or $300 on food, I'm not sure, but it was budgeted because I had to work with Jerry for days getting a budget approved that he was comfortable with when he was on the finance committee of what we would nail down how the money would be allocated for the year. And my understanding was we frequently with Kathy that there was no submitting financial improprieties going on because all that was discussed at length. Jim Jantz was on the committee with me before, and then Elizabeth Lewis. But the minutes will indicate that with the scrutiny was given at the expenses as to how we would best spend the money. We were under budget. One year we allocated spending money for vampire meter testers in the library and other things to do when we were under budget. The website could be easy to put on, it's recommended the EPC put on an agenda addressing the website issues. Whether or not, I don't know these opinions, I haven't read them, so whether or not they should be written and other opposing opinions allowed or how that should be done, that part I don't know. We always, again, I put here, we always went through town policy, and I think it's on the council members that are on the committee to recruit members. It's not to have 12, it's to have up to 12, because sometimes the reason for that was activities like Earth Week can be very demanding. So if there were more members, you needed workers. This is one of the few committees in town that doesn't just show up like the Planning Commission and make a vote. The EPC members needed to go out and on Earth Week, be there, recruit work with the schools, get the sponsors. One of these nights we had Allied Waste with their biodiesel trucks. We had people speaking on sprinklers, their sensors and such. So and when this was set up, and the minutes would show that the website was designed to be distant from the town to allow it to be dynamic, because the committee only meets quarterly, and you can't have something going on and then try to get it up there in time. I'm wrapping up. So this ban, I think, is just bad policy, given all that's going on right now with the environment, and it needs to be continued. It just would be a bad sign. I know earlier the Almanac loved Portola Valley for being so green, and we were following in their footsteps. We were trying to catch up. And that pretty much does cover, again, the 2020, the launch, the home inspections, everything that's going on with Actera. There's so much synergy in the community with the EPC and other cities. To just say we're disbanding, I think is an overkill. When you could just say, address the website at your next meeting. Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Walter Sleeth, Catalpa Drive. I'm just speaking as a common resident. Councilman Lewis, the comments you made on a general level, most of the residents completely agree. Environmentalism is great, and we would like to have Atherton be involved in those. However, I do think you missed the point that there was some politicizing, some politics on that website and the opinions there. And it doesn't appear as though it was approved by the whole committee. Now, following up on Charles, having said all that, and if in fact the website is down, it strikes me as though we do need some more information. And all you need to do is say, let's keep the website off until the next meeting, and when we have more of the facts, and then you can make a really informed decision on this. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Valerie?
So, I'm Valerie Gardner, member of the NPC, and it's 10:30 at night, and there have been a lot of questions, but I respect your time, everybody's time here. I'm happy to answer questions to the best of my knowledge. I have nothing to hide. There's been a lot of false information provided from this bench here. Nobody has the answers because nobody ever asked me any questions. I'm happy to answer questions at any time. I can do it now at 10:30 at night, or we could actually sit down and have a meeting, like I've had several with John Danielson, and several with Jim Dobby, and I've had multiple with everybody here except some people who have not been very interested in the EPC and didn't even read the website after a year on the committee. So to the extent that you are interested in having answers, I'm happy to provide them, to the extent that I know them. If you want me to stand here and answer questions, 2 minutes will not do it, but I'm happy to answer whatever you have. Let me just start with the important piece that I think matters a lot about the money, because everybody's concerned about the money. The only people who have ever been paid in the 5 years that I've been involved with this committee have been Kathy Anderson, staff person. And until this summer, when I tried to hire some students to help us with a very big rollout program, nobody else was paid. Town of Atherton gave me so much trouble paying somebody on our committee, a student volunteer, that I had to use Actera to provide a check to students to have them appear at our launch, which I know you enjoyed having them there. That's it. I've never earned a penny, and not a cent has been paid to anybody that I know on the committee, which consists of myself, Frank, 2 council members, Stephen Haley, who is a volunteer member but was not allowed to become a member because he was a Canadian citizen. And it also consists much more broadly of about 15 advisors who comprise the Thinking Green think tank, who provided direction for our committee because we didn't have enough volunteers for reasons that I can't quite understand except for how this town treats committees. And the entire development team for the federally funded energy efficiency program, which is ranging in around the number 20 volunteers on that subcommittee. None of them have been paid. So I hope that puts to rest some concerns about that. Is there anything else that's really important that I should answer right now?
Any questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so any other public comments? Okay, so we'll bring it back to the council for final discussion. Gary?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to suggest that a few council members of the committee get together with the 2 gentlemen at the end of the table down there between now and the next council meeting and formulate a proposal for the council to consider regarding the committee. I think there are questions that have been raised tonight. I'm leery about just going ahead and disbanding things and then reformulating without having answers to the questions that would we lose some funds, or are there some surprises, some things we don't know about that might be adverse consequences of doing that. Maybe I'm being overly cautious about that, but I think that if the 2 committee members would get together with the city attorney and the city manager and come up with a proposal for the council to consider at the next meeting, I would be very comfortable with that.
With all respect, I would not be comfortable with that. Jerry, I have been cut out a great deal, I believe, is my opinion of this committee. And as you've heard tonight, I've certainly been attacked enough with regard to my role or non-existent role in this whole thing. I don't want to be in a position of judging this in any way or formulating what should happen. I think that that should be left to our attorney and our city manager and our new finance director for them to look at what's going on and determine what the financial picture would be upon council direction. But I don't want to be the one directing this because I don't want anyone to think I have any kind of ulterior motive in this. I don't, and I don't wish people to believe I do.
No, I was accepting that, Council Member McKeithen, that I was hoping that with your, that you could add some value to that kind of discussion, and the fact that if you would participate, would bring you up to speed maybe on some things, and if the 4 of you could agree on something, that would be a big step forward as far as something that I would feel comfortable with as a council member to consider. Thank you.
So I'd be very happy to meet with the city attorney and city manager and Councilmember McKeithen to answer any questions they have and bring all the information. I think that with the other committee members, Frank Merrill and Stephen Haley, and maybe we can even recruit one of our old committee members to come in with some historical information too, and we could discuss this and clear it all up. As we said, the issue, the minute a concern was raised about the website, the minute that I got the call from city manager telling me that he had a concern about the website, we took it down, and it's been down. It's unavailable. It's been down since November 17th. And, so, you don't have to, be afraid of fielding calls. And then we can bring all of the documentation. I'm sure that there's just a ton of stuff that's even in the council records, like the grant that was accepted, by council that we've kind of forgotten. and because you guys are new. So I'm willing to work through. I really do think that we should do the investigation, get the answers before we make a judgment.
Well, I think we're concentrating on the website, and to some extent, I mean, the website in my mind was just unbelievable. It was representing Atherton as having those opinions and website with an Atherton logo on it, which I believe probably is illegal if nothing else. And I cannot believe it. I don't know who wrote it, but whoever wrote it, I'm sure was involved with the Environmental Programs Committee, but in my memory, it's been one thing after the other with this committee. And my belief is that if we disband the EPC, but reform it, and it doesn't need to be in a long future date, with clear rules, it's hard for me to see why we'd lose any money from anybody giving this to us, because we're gonna have a new committee. And I would say at the reformation of that committee, 2 council members, if they're willing to do it, can redo the charter and make sure that this time we've got it under control.
I think I've already said
Mr. Mayor, there's one other thought, if I may, is that this may be symptomatic of broader situation, and that is looking at all of our committees. And the comment's been made that maybe the town has too many committees, and we all know that we sometimes feel that way when we're trying to schedule our time and trying to fit it in with not only town committees, but regional committees, which I find are taking more and more of my time. And so one of the things I would suggest to you, Mr. Mayor, that maybe would take the council at some point in time, take a look at the broader committee issue as well.
That's a good idea. My only comment before we decide what we're going to do here, again, I don't think anybody is saying that the environmental committee hasn't done good things in the past. They've done a lot of neat things and are sponsoring some current programs that seem to be very promising and seem to be very good. They went out and they raised their money. As you know, we chose as a city and as a council to scale back on our spending on committees, and they went out and got some of their companies that they're doing business with and that are involved in some of the Atherton 2020 activities, and they've gotten them to pony up to help fund some of the activities that they're doing. I think the issue at hand is, and it may be a broader issue, is not just with the size of the committee, but also, were or were not any rules broken with the spending of the money, with posting things on the website, etc. And I think that it seems to me, everybody has to decide for themselves, that perhaps we don't have all the information yet, but that Bill and Deborah and John are going to look into that. And so it might be worthwhile not to say disband, but perhaps suspend pending your final investigation, which hopefully we can conclude within 30 days. So it's not necessarily a continuance, because it doesn't say things continue on as they are, but it just says everything stays where it is, and that we're not going to have a meeting. I don't know if there was a meeting planned for January, but perhaps it could be postponed pending the January report. So that's something for somebody to consider. In fact, I'd like to move that we do that.
I'll second.
So suspend the activities, is that the motion?
Suspend the activities in EPC until the completion of the investigation by Mr. Danielson and Mr. Connors, with the support of our new finance director, and then take action at the next meeting.
Could we read the motion again, Bill, that you're making?
Okay, my motion is that we suspend the EPC at this point in time, not disband it, but suspend it, pending final investigation, completion of the investigation by city staff, and presentation of that for action by the council at the next council meeting. So,
I second it.
okay, so we'll have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the motion passes. Thank you. So, the next item is item 22, which is the council reports, and as is always the case, Councilmember Carlson has a report. Would you like to present?
Nothing further to say.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for? Okay. 23 future agenda items. We've talked about a couple of them. I guess I heard Councilmember Carlson suggest that we have an agenda item or perhaps a strategy session on the committees. Okay. Are there any other items for?
I'd like to ask whether or not we're going to hold any workshops this year. I know that in the past, not in 2011, but in the past, we've held, council workshops that have been team building in nature, and I think that that's something that we need to do. I also think that it is time for us to renew our ethics certificates for all the council members. And then I also would like to recommend that all council members try to attend the League of Cities boot camp, new mayors and council members boot camp in Sacramento, and it's in January. Do you remember that?
18th to 20th.
Yeah, it's always the week of our council meeting, but it starts on Wednesday. But I've gone up on Wednesday and then driven back for the council meeting, and then gone up the next morning on Thursday for the seminar. So it's not hard to do.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I suggested at the beginning, and I know that I went over quickly, but one of the last things was we need to get together as a council and decide a long-term plan. We also talked about setting objectives and measuring performance. So I think that we need to try and do that in a workshop and make sure that we're aligned so city staff knows what the council would like to see, and then they can incorporate that with the other activities that they're planning.
I'd just make a comment on that. If we're gonna have a workshop, we ought to make it crystal clear what the goals of the workshop are. Because the last workshop I attended, it was actually before I was on the council. Jerry Gruber was here. We spent 2 days talking. Not one single thing came about as a result of that workshop. To me, it was just a total waste of time. I think it made everybody feel good. They did a lot of talking, but as far as the results go, it was nothing. So this time, we're going to have a workshop. I want to be sure that right in the definition of workshop, we define what the expected result should be, and then I think it can be very constructive and it can be worthwhile. Otherwise, we sit there, people pontificate for 2 days, and as a result of it, nothing happens.
So, thank you, the Mayor. I think we really also need to agendize creating an ad hoc committee for search for some of our key staff members. Because we don't know whether or not, especially the city manager search, we don't know whether CalPERS is going to accept our plea and how much time we have left. So that needs to be done post haste. I mean, we may need to even hold a special meeting just to do that, so that we can get that going.
Thank you. Any other future agenda items? All right, any last public comments?
I have a very quick one. Wally Sleeth, Catalpa. I would, in terms of the requests, the city manager, Danielson, and your council do this investigation, it really was not made very clear to council. One of the issues to me is whether there were any rules broken in terms of what was posted to that website and these opinions. And it seems to me that ought to be a part of your investigation as well. Okay, thank you very much.
Charles?
Cleaning up stuff. The, what happens to the Dames office, the art committee storage, and other things that are in the main house now? Where will they end up, and does space need to be allocated in the EIR for where they end up?
That's all being considered.
We didn't discuss it, it wasn't part of the
It was-
motion.
It was, Mike added it.
Okay, great.
Are there any other public comments? With that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Also move.
All right.
Well, yeah.
Second?
Second.
Came on just in time.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Congratulations, Elizabeth.
Might you start working on it?